Hello, this is Cheryl Splachta, Environmental Health Regional Specialist with the North Carolina Food Protection and Facilities Program. Today, I'm presenting information on Article 19, the Migrant Housing Act of North Carolina. This delegation of authority is included with either an on-site wastewater or food and lodging authorization. In 1989, the General Assembly enacted Migrant Housing Act of North Carolina. The North Carolina Department of Labor conducts this program, which includes annual housing registration, inspection, and compliance program that ensures safe and healthy conditions for migrant housing. This also applies to owners and/or operators who provide housing to migrant workers. For more information, visit the North Carolina Department of Labor's website. Let's review definitions that can be found in General Statute 95-223. A migrant is defined as an individual, his dependents, who are employed in agricultural employment of a seasonal or other temporary nature, and who is required to be absent overnight from his permanent place of residence. Migrant housing is defined as any facility, structure, real property, or other unit that is established, operated, or used as living quarters for migrants. An operator is defined as any person who owns or controls migrant housing. For migrant housing, environmental health is tasked with ensuring that an approved water supply is provided, as well as an approved wastewater disposal system. All other structural and safety requirements are enforced by the North Carolina Department of Labor. This information can be found in General Statute 95-225. The application for inspection is defined in General Statute 95-226. The application must be submitted to the North Carolina Department of Labor within 45 days prior to the date of occupancy. The North Carolina Department of Labor notifies the Health Department in writing that an inspection is needed. The Health Department must acknowledge receipt of this inspection request, and then the Health Department is responsible for inspecting the water supply and the wastewater disposal system for each housing unit. During a migrant housing inspection, there are 3 areas that should be examined. 1 is the water supply, 2, the wastewater disposal system, and 3 would be any other environmental hazards. The water supply must first be assessed and determined if it is a public or community system, or if water is provided by an on-site supply. If the water supply is determined to be public or community, no sampling would be required. But if it is an on-site system, there are certain criteria that also require sample collection. It must meet the 1700 rules. The site location must be approved. The wellhead assembly must also be approved, meeting the 1700 rules. This water supply should be provided with a sampling tap, and it must be properly grouted. And this picture shows a good example of what you likely would find supplying water to a migrant house. So we mentioned that a sample is required, a bacteriological sample. You should check the supply for chlorine residual prior to obtaining the sample. Use appropriate sampling methods. And once the results are returned, if the sample is positive for coliform bacteria, you must notify the operator about proper disinfection procedures and resampling requirements. They can have this professionally done, or they can choose to disinfect the well themselves. So you see an example of the certificate of analysis that is provided by the North Carolina State Laboratory of Public Health. I'll zoom in on that so you can read it a little better. And you do see here that the sample comes back present for total coliform bacteria. This well would require disinfection and resampling. Let's talk about the wastewater disposal system. The wastewater disposal system must be first assessed to determine if it is a public or community system, or if it is an on-site system. If it is public or community, no inspection of this area would be required. But if it is an on-site system, it must meet the 1900 rules, the rules governing the sanitation of on-site wastewater systems. You should review permits on file at your health department prior to this inspection, and you should determine if the proposed number of occupants is allowed on the septic permit. If no permit is available, communicate with the operator that additional site work may be needed to determine compliance. Determine if the system is malfunctioning during the inspection. If you are not already authorized in on-site wastewater, you should contact your supervisor or another registered environmental health specialist who is authorized in on-site wastewater in your county. So now we can conduct a visual inspection around the vicinity, the area, the premises, to see if we see any issues with other possible contaminants or harmful substances within the area of the water supply. An example, as shown here, could be pesticides, chemical drums, or any other hazardous substances stored near the well. After the inspection, the registered environmental health specialist must complete a form that is entitled Pre-Occupancy Evaluation Report of Drinking Water Supply and Wastewater Facilities for Migrant Housing, and this has to be done for each housing unit. The health department then forwards this form to the North Carolina Department of Labor, also providing the operator with a copy, and the copy shall be kept on file at the health department. There are quite a few things you can see, an insert here of what this application looks like, and we have that provided to you in a link so you have access to this form. We have reached the end of the presentation on migrant housing. If you have any questions about this presentation, please contact your regional specialist. Thank you.